Alright, what's up, guys? Here are my predictions for UFC 134 Rio. I'm going to start with the preliminary card, and I'm going to go through it real quick. Yves Jabouin versus Ian Loveland. I'm taking Loveland. Yuri Alcantara versus Felipe Arantes. I'm taking Alcantara. Asuncao versus Johnny Eduardo. This one could go either way, but I'll take Asuncao. Paulo Thiago versus David Mitchell. Paulo Thiago, he's fought like all the toughest guys in the UFC in his weight division since he got here. And he really hasn't gotten too many matchups of unknown people or guys that he has a possibility to beat. And I'm thinking he's going to beat David Mitchell by first or second round KO or just a decision. Next match, Husmar Palhares versus Dan Miller. Both guys are good at jiu-jitsu, except Palhares is like a high-level black belt, and I think he's stronger than Dan. I think he's going to take this unanimous decision, but Dan Miller is a tough guy. Takes fight on short notices, just like this one. Next fight, Thiago Tavares, Spencer Fisher. Spencer Fisher, decently well-rounded. Thiago Tavares, good jiu-jitsu, and he's been working on his striking, as seen in his last fight before he got knocked out. I'm thinking Spencer Fisher's past his prime, and Thiago Tavares is going to take this fight by decision. Okay, now getting to the main card. Luis Kane versus Stanislav Nedkov. Luis Kane, he's fighting in his home country. He's a good striker, finisher. In Luis Kane's fights, either he finishes someone or he gets finished. And Stanislav Nedkov, he can stand up a little bit and he can take you down and ground and pound you. Stanislav's an aggressive fighter. I've seen some of his fights. I think if Luis Kane can keep this standing, he might have a chance to win. But the way I see it going is Stanislav Nedkov taking him down and TKOing him in the second round. Next fight, Ross Pearson versus Edison Barboza. Both guys are tough guys. Ross Pearson, pretty good fighter. Same with Edison, as seen in his last fight. Ross Pearson likes to get close, use the clinch and punch from there. Seen in a couple of his fights. But Edison, I think he's the faster, more powerful guy. He's got good leg kicks. I think he's going to just keep his distance a little bit and pick Ross Pearson apart, take home a unanimous decision. Yeah, and, who knows? Maybe Ross Pearson will have a big improvement. He could take this fight. You never know. Next fight, Brendan Schaub versus Antonio Rodrigo Minotauro Nogueira. Brendan Schaub, he's still a young guy. Just recently started fighting, not too many years ago. Really powerful knockout artist. Nogueira, of course, one of the greatest heavyweights that's ever fought. He's got 20 submission wins. He's getting old though. He hasn't fought in a long time. Just coming off of 2 hip surgeries. Nogueira's only been knocked out twice, and he was known before for not being able to knock out, but he's been knocked out twice. One of those times, he fought after being in the hospital the week before against Frank Mir, and Cain Velasquez was the other knockout, and he's the champ. I don't think Brendan Schaub's crazy enough to take this to the ground with Nogueira. He's going to try and stand and knock him out. Who knows? Maybe Nogueira will come back 100%. If he does, I could see him taking this by second round submission, triangle or something like that, armbar. Maybe if he pulled guard, but I I'm just having a hard time deciding on this one. I want to say Brendan Schaub if you want to keep it safe and bet on Brendan Schaub. But you know, I'm taking Nogueira by second round submission. That's what I'll go with, and hopefully he can pull it off. But if you want to keep it safe, just go with Brendan Schaub. Next fight is Mauricio Shogun Hua against Forrest Griffin. Shogun, tough guy. So's Forrest. Forrest never quits. Shogun, he's a finisher. He's finished all of his fights except two against Antonio Rogerio Nogueira and Nakamura. First time he fought Forrest, he was coming off a knee injury, and he blames that for being part of his loss. No one expected Forrest to win, and he came up with the upset, and he finished Shogun. Forrest, he's got the mental edge on Shogun, knowing he beat him the first time, but I think Shogun's going to come back strong, like he always does. Maybe we'll have another Lyoto Shogun 2 performance, or maybe we'll just have one like the first fight. Hopefully, Shogun will be in tip-top condition, and Forrest will be, as usual. And hopefully this will be a great fight. The way I see it going is, them striking back and forth a little bit, maybe Forrest or Shogun attempting to take it to the ground. I think it's going to be a tough, close fight. And if Shogun doesn't finish Forrest, I see Forrest possibly taking home a split decision or maybe a unanimous decision. But who knows, Shogun, he can finish anyone. He's finished Rampage, he's finished Machida. I don't know, he's finished Chuck Liddell. He's tough. He can beat practically anyone in his weight class on a good day. But Forrest, former champ, fights hard, never gives up. Good jiu-jitsu, good striking. Probably not as good a striker as Shogun, but I think it'll be a pretty close matchup. Who knows? It's a tough one for me to decide. I'll go with Forrest. And then getting to the main event, Anderson Silva versus Yushin Okami. Okami, probably the third-ranked guy at the middleweight division, behind Chael Sonnen and Anderson, of course. He fought Anderson like 4 or 5 years ago, and he couldn't take Anderson down. Anderson was beating him pretty obviously. He managed to get a takedown, but then Anderson Silva kicked him while in the guard in the back of the head in the head and knocked him out. And then that basically got Anderson the disqualification and the loss. But Anderson even said himself, the rules weren't clearly explained to him. So I wouldn't even count that as a loss, From what I see, I see this going like Okami's like one of the toughest guys in the division, but I could still see Anderson dominating him. I mean, everyone's like, oh, Anderson Silva, he's getting old. He's not as good as he used to be. People hate him. But remember the Anderson Silva that beat Forrest Griffin or Nate Marquardt, one that knocked out James Irvin? He's still around. He's going to beat him. He just knocked out Vitor Belfort, and everyone's still like, there's a lot of people doubting that he can beat Okami. I think even though Okami's one of the best guys in the division, I think Anderson's still going to take him out with either a first or second round KO or TKO. Everyone's like, oh, Okami has wrestling. He trains with Chael Sonnen. Just because Chael Sonnen showed a possibility of a way to beat Anderson Silva doesn't mean people can fight like Chael Sonnen or basically fight like Chael Sonnen does and do what he did to Anderson Silva. All fighters are different. Okami doesn't fight like Chael Sonnen. So at the end of the day, I see Anderson winning this by first or second round KO. Thanks for listening to my predictions. If you have any tips or you want me to predict some upcoming fight card, please tell me. All right, thank you. Peace out.